All right, what's up everybody? Welcome back, and today I'm going to talk about what is a mandrel. I've had a lot of questions about the mandrel on any of my tube bending videos with the 2x4 rectangular. So I'm going to talk about what a mandrel is, how it works, why it's here, what it wants from us, and what its main purpose is. So this is the mandrel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move the camera in so you can see it better, and I've got a bent piece of tube and I'm just going to lay this on top to kind of show how it works and what it does as the tubing is bent. So let me move the camera in and I'll kind of show you how all of this works with the tube underneath the mandrel. That way you can see exactly how everything's going to work. All right, so here we have our mandrel, and this one is for 2x4 rectangular tube, 0.188 wall. So it's a little bit different than the one I use for 120 wall, but the concept is the same, and the only real difference is the 188 wall has only 2 of these pivot detents here, while the 120 wall has a third just to give it a little bit more support. Other than that, everything's pretty much the same. So this is made out of a machined piece of bronze. That way it glides inside the tubing. This one I had to cut a little bit of a groove in it for the weld seam on the 3/16. Sometimes it works without it, sometimes I need it, so I just machined this small groove into here. So how this works is it is attached at this end by a long connecting rod that runs out the back of the machine, and it is extended and retracted. So if you've watched the other videos, I talk about extending the mandrel and retracting the mandrel as we're doing our bends and our setups. So how that works is I'll bring in this piece of tubing. So we're just going to imagine that this is in the bender itself, and I'm going to lay the mandrel on top of the tube here. So what happens is we've got our tube set at where we want to bend it, but where it actually starts bending is different. So when we set the machine up, our mandrel needs to be in the proper place to support the tubing as it's bent. So this point, the solid part of the mandrel, needs to be set up at the bend tangent point, and that's where the bend will start and stop off of a straight section. So it's kind of backwards of what you'd think. You'd almost think the mandrel would have to be up here. That way it can be in the bend and be pulled out. But the only bending is performed right here as the die rotates. So I'll just put a reference mark here, and we will say that this is our bend tangent point. And that is where our wiper die sits, all of that, and it supports the tube right where it starts to bend. So our mandrel is back here when we're setting everything up, and then we extend the mandrel, and that bar pushes the mandrel up into place, and our solid edge of the solid section here, the front face, it comes up and it stops right at the bend tangent. And that's where it sits. So if we retract it, it does the opposite. It just pulls it back out of the way so we can reposition the tube. So then our die itself will rotate. This section of tube, the mandrel, the pressure die, all stays in this relationship, even though the pressure die moves parallel with the tube during the bend. But we're just going to focus on the mandrel and the tube at this point. So our die is coming around, and this part is at the tangent point. So that's where these little pivot detent pieces come in, because that will allow it to bend a little bit with the tube to support it as the bend is created. So then the tubing itself moves forward as it's drawn over the die, and essentially that's what the die is looking like as the tubing is drawn over the mandrel. So the mandrel is supporting the tube internally before the bend, up to the bend, and then these little detent sections are inside the start of the bend, supporting it as it comes around. All right, so I'm gonna set this to the side, and I'll bring in a piece that I already have bent here, and I've marked it where our tangent point is. So again, this is a long straight section. Initially, the tube is like this, and as it's bent, it rotates with the die supporting it on the inside here, and the mandrel stays stationary, and the tubing is drawn over the top of the mandrel. And the mandrel is supporting the tube internally before the bend, at the tangent point of the bend, and then our little pivot detent sections here, they are inside the start of the bend. So again, we're just kind of simulating here. So our tube is completely straight, and as it starts to bend, the mandrel stays stationary as the tubing is drawn over the mandrel with the rotation of the main female section of the die and the clamp die. In the videos, you'll see the pressure die is kind of riding along the outside. That's supporting this, and it's not really gliding on it, it's moving with the tubing. So essentially that's how a mandrel bender works. It has the mandrel inside of the tubing, and this is the same concept whether it's round or rectangle or square. A mandrel is always going to be on the inside supporting the material. So hopefully this makes sense. Seeing it in action on the bender itself, and then with me laying the mandrel on top, hopefully it clarifies some stuff. But its main purpose is to support the tube from the inside. It never goes through the bend and has to be retracted out. The only thing that's inside the bend is the detent, and this is one of the main reasons why you have to do all your bends in order, because this is on a 20-foot solid steel bar, and if we have to come back in through here, that bar can't come through. So this always has to stay straight, and it always has to be lined up with our tangent point. That way, this supports the tube, that can pivot with it. And that's kind of the entire process of how a mandrel works, what its main purpose is, what it's made out of, and kind of what it looks like. So hopefully this answers some questions for you guys, because I got a ton of questions about what's the mandrel made of, where does it go, how's it work, what's it do, all these questions. So I thought this would be a good little short video just explaining what the mandrel is, its main purpose, and how it works to create kink-free and crack-free bends. Well, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this explanation of what the mandrel is and what its purpose is with tube bending. So I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this video as well as many of my others. The response I'm getting from you guys is awesome, and it's really motivating me to continue pushing myself to do more videos, better videos, and get you guys the information you really want. So I appreciate you guys so much checking out all my content I'm providing here and on Facebook and Instagram. So if there's something specific you guys really want to see, drop it down in the comment section and I'll do my best to get that video made for you guys. So again, thank you so much for checking out this video as well as my others and all the continued support, and I'll catch you guys on the next video of me getting up to something. So we'll see you guys then.